Good afternoon and welcome to Northern Maine Productions. We're in the workshop. We're on the workbench. So what I have here is the rear section of the Snapper 30083 lawnmower that we looked at in my last video. This is the one that could be potentially a restoration project. Took the front section all off, and here I got a pile of parts back here. So far no big calamities. I mean, other than just things all rusty from setting. I don't see any major issues so far. Got the engine off in it. Engine's sitting on the floor over there. I haven't taken the drive plate off in that engine yet. That's probably going to be a real problem trying to get that off. But I've got another one here if I can't get that one off. So just kind of looking this thing over right here right now. So when I was showing you guys the slop in this differential the other night, I mentioned the hubs could have been loose, and lo and behold, I got the wheels off in it, and I was right. So what's happened here is probably the wheels and tires had never been off of this thing. Well, one of them had been, because I actually took one of the tires off in it and used it on something else, but these have probably never been touched or never been tightened up. And these are a wedge, they're kind of a cone shaped bolt that goes through here. This is the nut, and that's the cone shape. What you have to do sometimes, if them start to get a little bit loose, you have to tighten them up and obviously that never happened, and it's probably got a fair amount of hours on it. I went through this similar issue with my 3081 lawnmower several years ago, and the stupid thing was worn so bad it kept shearing the bolts off in the hubs. I'm actually kind of surprised this one hasn't, but it looks to me like it got a nylon rope wound up in there sometime or another, and it's popped that plastic cup off of there. This is where things could get critical for this machine, because the bushing that's in this side cover right here is no longer available from Snapper, and amazingly there's not a bunch of up and down play in that. There is some side to side movement here though. That could potentially be a problem, but maybe not. I got to take it apart and look at it, because what happens is if this hex shaft is allowed to travel this way too far, that's when you get the wear in this case right here. That's where the chain and the sprocket will wear a hole out through the case, because it's moving too far this way. And typically there's some shims in behind here. What had happened on my 3081 at some point in time was either the shims wore out and fell out of there, and the end of this hex shaft just kept boring into the bushing that was in this fender, which caused it to have excessive slop back and forth, and eventually the thing got so far out of whack in the chain case here that the chain eventually did come off. It didn't break anything, but the chain fell off in it. So I ended up putting a whole entire different unit in that. I took it out of another machine. The unit that's in my 3081 is actually it's out of an extra tough machine. It's actually got ball bearings in it, so that's a whole lot better. But over here on this side, there is not as much slop here. There's a little bit, but now turning this around, by hand, the differential gears feel nice and smooth. So that's a positive thing. Now obviously when I take this apart, I got to take this side apart, take this hub off, and you have to slide this chain case off of the end of this. So obviously I'm going to have to try to clean this up. This is pretty rusty from setting. And it's pretty crucial that this is clean and that this will slide good, because you won't be able to ship this stupid thing if it... Because right now it's in the highest speed. It's in 5th gear. So looking down in here, you can see that the yoke is missing out of this, and there's an adjustment rod that hooks into this, hooks into here. It's got the spring and the adjustment rod in it. That's missing. Probably got robbed out of it and put into another machine. Who would know? I'm assuming, based on what I can remember with this machine, this got traded in because the motor was tired on it. It burned a lot of oil from what I recall. And it never got repaired. We never fixed it or resold it. We just basically it sat out back for quite a few years, and it got parts robbed off it to keep other machines going. And I'm assuming that based on the parts manual that I looked at on this, I did look at a genuine Snapper parts manual, and this machine did not have the easy engagement clutch. This had the old style clutch on it. So I'm assuming that that was removed from this and put onto a newer machine that was having problems with that stupid clutch. This is pretty hilly terrain around here, and those easy engagement clutches were pretty problematic when you were on steep hills all the time. They tended to slip, and sometimes you get one of them that would run great forever and never give you any trouble, and then there'd be always that one that would give you, no matter what you did to the stupid thing. Well, I've learned a lot about these since then, and now, of course, back in the early 1990s, it wasn't as easy to get technical information on these as it is nowadays. And I learned that there is some more adjustments down in here on the clutch rod. You can adjust the tension on the spring down in there to make it apply more pressure to the drive plate. Now, back then, I didn't know that. I was just young and dumb, but I did like these machines overall, though. These were a nice little machine, but basically the drive disc issue was really the only major problem we ever had with these. You know, some of these were 15, 20 years old at that time, and they had been run hard and used a lot. You know, they'd been used pretty hard. So it's pretty evident looking at this that it was greased fairly well. There's an awful slob of grease on here, but that's basically what that double-aught snapper lube grease looks like. It's just slime, just black grime. There's no other way to put it. And one of the stands on the back of this, one of those things is bent. I think I do have some extra ones here. I parted out 2 other machines. So the only major wear that I noted when I took this apart is there is some wear up in here. You know, that's kind of typical. That's probably one of the first places it'll wear. Now, amazingly, these plastic bushings in here are all still intact, and they're not loose and falling out of the frame here, so that's a good thing. I notice there's a nut missing off the shifting linkage. I'm not sure what took place there, but This gear case here is most likely alright. I do have some clutch parts here that I could take off from some other ones to put back onto this, but I don't know. I guess we're gonna have to wait and see. My intention is, before I do very much work to this, is I want to see what kind of condition the differential's in. So that's going to be a bit of a job to take that apart. It's a dirty job, but you know, this stuff here can be repaired relatively easy. I know I can fix that. I can weld a washer on there if I have to, just to make that hole smaller again. But this rod's bent, obviously. That probably got bent dragging it out of that hellhole that it was parked in for 20 years. This got moved in the early 2000s, and it actually ended up in another storage area that was off of the repair shop's property, and it was actually the owner's property that behind his own house. So this thing got moved up there like in the early 2000s. My brother had worked for him, and he stated that he could remember when they moved it up there. So, but yeah, this is gonna be if I decide to do this and I decide to actually fix this, I'm gonna actually completely restore this machine, and I mean completely restore it. It's gonna be all cleaned. Everything's gonna be painted. This thing will basically look like brand new when I get done with it. I've yet to decide if that's gonna happen or not. You know, this parts availability is getting a little bit slim for these now, so I'd kind of like to preserve one of them. Preserve it as a restored and operational lawnmower, you know, not used all the time. I'd just like to have one that could be taken to a show or a equipment show or whatever. I mean, these things, they were everywhere around here at one time, but boy, there aren't many of these left in this area. There hasn't been a snapper dealer around here in over 30 years, so I discovered something about this deck that I kind of forgot about. This is a Series 3 machine. If I can get back in here. I believe it was a Series 2 or 3 machines that, you can see these bars here, we've got holes drilled in them. That would be where the safety pedals for the blade engagement would have mounted. I'm thinking that based on what this says on this cover about holding the blade pedal down, this machine probably originally had the safety pedals on it to hold the blade pedals down. Now, looking in the parts manual, this deck was shared with a 3081. So when you look in the parts manual under the 30083 machine, there's another window in there for the blade brake parts. Now apparently, probably the original owner of this didn't like the blade pedal, so they took it off there and they ordered the parts for the 3081. All you had to change was that little bracket in there that hold the engagement lever in place, and then you just took the rest of that garbage off there. And that's okay. I don't care. I hated them. I hated those pedals that were on these anyways. They were a pain in the rear. So I got a lot of work ahead of me if I ever plan on getting this thing going. It probably ain't gonna happen even, I would doubt it's gonna happen next summer even. This is gonna be a spare time project, I think. This might be a good multi-series thing to do on YouTube, I'm thinking. So Anyways, I guess with that, I'm going to say goodbye. I got a lot more tearing apart here to do yet, so I'm not going to film all of that. I mean, I'm not going to watch you guys. I'm not going to have you guys watch me having a meltdown with this thing if I can't get it apart, because I can assure you that this thing is going to be a pain in the rear to get this, especially this part of it. That's going to be a pain to get that case off there, I think. So anyways, it's a good thing that I've got this crate down here. That thing is packed right full of snapper parts down in the bottom of it, and I believe that there's probably an adjustment rod down, that spring rod is probably in there that goes to that, hopefully. Like I say, I parted out 2 of these things, so hopefully I kept some parts off of them. Well, I guess with that, that's long enough. Y'all have a good one. Bye bye. Well, I just thought I'd take a couple minutes here and do a little update. As you can see, I have this thing substantially torn apart. I'm down to taking the last part off of this rear section, and that's going to be this right hand side fender and differential case. I'm going to try to get this off of here. I don't know if there's any chance of me getting that nut loose or not. That other one came off really hard. So am I seeing any wear here so far? Well, some. There's a little bit. There's some wear right here. There's actually a little bit of wear where that hub has been riding on that axle shaft. The bolt hole for the shear pin in the hub looks good. There's a little bit of wear right there where that axle goes through the bushing. However, the bushing looks nearly perfect. So probably there's been some lack of grease there at some point in time. I mean, that thing had that friggin' string all wrapped up in there, and the seal was right off of there, so I imagine some dirt did get in there a little bit. It doesn't appear that that has got a hardened face on that shaft, so that's, you know, that's probably not going to bother anything. Over here on this side, I was a little disappointed over here when I pulled the hub off of there. The hole's all egg-shaped. Quite bad. Now, that's not the end of the world. And I'll tell you why. So I've still got this differential here. They come out of my old 3081. And look at the one in that. That one is not too bad. And you can take that all apart. So, the differential gears look like they're alright in that. So, that's an option right there if I have to use that. The other option would be that I could heat this up and fill this in with a brazing rod. Just put some brass in there, meld it all in good shape, and then actually mark the holes and re-drill the hole. You know, that would buy you quite a lot of time with it. The problem with these is, you know, the grease always seeps out through here, so that hub never really gets stuck to this in good shape. It actually will still work on that shaft. But the problem with this is this had the old style clutch on it, I believe, and these things are wicked jerky when you put them in gear and shift them and let the clutch out. They jump, you know. There's a lot of stress on these little shear bolts here when you initially take off of that. Both of my old machines are like that. That one's quite bad that way. And the other one's outside. The other one's out. It's actually stored in that snowmobile trailer that's sitting up in my backyard up there. But so I guess the only thing left to do here is to get this case off of here and start disassembling that. It does look like it's pretty well lubricated, especially, you know, in here. There's all kinds of fresh grease in there, and I'm not really seeing a lot of water in it, so that's pretty amazing. But inside the case will tell the story. So anyways, I'll be back. Well, I'm back. Funny, as I was taking this apart, I was all ready to blast this blasted double-aught snapper lube grease that's in these things, but now I gotta eat my words. This machine, the grease is not all hardened up in it. It's actually still semi-liquid, and the thing's in absolutely outstanding condition inside. So you know what that means? That means I just completely wasted my time tearing this thing apart. Well, no, not really. But yeah, this thing, there was a little bit of water in there, but I don't think that would have hurt too much. Once, you know, if you'd have actually started driving this thing and got it hot a couple of times, I'm sure the water would have evaporated out of it eventually. These things are not oil tight or airtight at all. So that's going to be fairly simple, I believe. I'm going to change this stub axle on this side, I think. I'll take the one off that other machine, because I really do. Those things are aggravating when those are egg shaped like that, because they'll shear that shear bolt right off. And that even adds to the jerkiness of it when you put it in gear and start moving. Yeah, all the differential gears are all good. This has got a, I don't know, I don't think there's anything extra heavy duty about this one. It's just standard duty. But yeah, the bushing all looks good. The seal looked good on the outside of that case. Well, I don't really know what to think about when I tore those. I tore two of these apart previously, about 8 or 9 years ago, and they didn't look like this inside, not even close. What I suspect happened was, I suspect that both of those other ones must have been apart and somebody used tube grease in them instead of this stuff. This is a kind of a new experience for me here. I guess I eat my words. I never took one of these apart back in the days when I worked on these for, I don't know how many years I worked on these, 6 or 7 summers in a row. I serviced these snapper machines, and I can remember adding some of this lubricant to these machines, and I knew that it went in there kind of gooey and greasy, but I'd never tore one of these apart before, prior to 6 or 7 years ago. So this is good news for this differential anyways. This means that one of two things. It means I either got a good spare differential, or two, it means that I can actually rebuild this thing and paint every component of this machine all up nice again and put it back together and have it be a nice machine. I'm not worried about that other little small gear case. Them things hardly ever gave any trouble, but the differential gears here are in quite nice shape. They're not all sharp like that other one is. jumping. So I got that other one I showed you guys in the last video. The teeth are just as sharp as razor blades, but these ones are still actually got the flat cut on them. That's good. The chain sprockets look good. So now I gotta clean my workbench off because I made an awful mess here. But well, if you ever wanted to see the rear end of a snapper lawnmower all torn apart, there it is, right there. The only thing that's left on that, I think, is the tow hitch and the two bars for the stand. I think every other piece is out of it. I found something in there that I was a little surprised to see. I kind of forgot about them. Whatever this little doohickey is here that has to do with the safety switches. Surprisingly, it was still in there, and I think it was actually still hooked up. But that's good. Maybe I can actually make the safety switches work on this one again. Who knows? It's not out of the question. I don't mind having them working if they work right. Well, I think I'm going to box this stuff up for now and call it a day. That's enough work for one afternoon. You all have a good afternoon, and you'll see me some more on this project here, I'm sure. Well, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next part of the series here. Bye bye.